Hi, I'm Dr. Ollie Carman and I teach on the Music and Technology programme here at the University of Liverpool. This short video is going to give you a taster of the kind of things that you might do if you choose to study here. I'm going to have a look at creating some sound design in Logic Pro 10 for an ident, which is something that's often used in channel branding. So let's take a look at an example of an ident. So this one comes from the History channel, and let's just think about the links between the moving image and the sound for a second. So it's pretty short. Let's just play that again. Okay, so we've got this kind of flashing in the image that coincides with that crackling that we can hear. Descending sound that kind of anticipates this big stab at the end, which then just has a little bit of reverb added to it to tail off. So one way we can understand this is to think of the sound or the audio that we're putting to our animation, our video, as a sound object. So a sound object is what we might call the basic unit from which we can build material for creating sound design. So one way we can understand this is to think of it as being a composite object. So it's often made up of a number of smaller sounds, or it can be a single sound sometimes, but when we listen to it or play it back, those different elements are all perceived as one single unit. And on a basic level, we can kind of say that all sound objects have a start, a middle, and an end. Let's go back to that video. I've made a little animation here that represents the sound as a sound object, so we can kind of see what I was just sort of talking about. Okay, so I'm suggesting with this particular sound that we're looking at, we've got a start, which is this descending sort of pitch with the crackly sound. The middle of it is the stab that we can hear, and then the end is just the reverb tail of that stab. So let's just listen to that again. So there's a clear energy, direction and motion to the sound. We've got the start, the middle and the end. The descending sound that's anticipating this big stab, and then the reverb tail at the end. Let's move into Logic, where we can try and combine some sounds together to create our own version of the audio to combine with this video clip. So here we are in Logic Pro. Don't worry if you've not used Logic before and you're watching this video. This is just a demonstration of the kind of thing that you might get to do. So we wouldn't expect you to be able to do this before you started the Music and Technology course. So what I've done here is I've imported my video that we watched previously along with the audio track. So if I just click the movie window here on the left, it will come up, and if I press play now, we should hear our ident that we were just watching on the video. So if I scroll along nice and slowly, you can see here's my start, which I've added in with a marker here, which is this portion of the audio. The start, and then the middle bit is kind of where we see the history icon appear, and then the end is just the fade off that we heard in the audio. So we've got start, end, like so. Now what I'm going to do is mute the audio from the original video, because we don't want to use that. We want to try and create our own. And then luckily, because I've prepared, I've got some audio files over here on the right hand side of the window loaded in to imported into my audio kind of library. And these sounds, let's just have a listen to a couple of them to begin with. So I've got a piano sound, so if I preview this, I've been recorded myself. I've got a crackling sound, a breath sound, which you might wonder why I'm going to use that, but you'll find out shortly. And what was the other sound that I might use? Another piano-y sort of pluck sound as well. Okay, so this will all become apparent once we've got into the video. And the other thing that I added using some MIDI instruments because I didn't have a kind of an orchestral sound to hand, is I've just played and recorded this in. So if you've used Logic before, you might have known how to record MIDI tracks, and I've just added the kind of the brassy stab there, and that sounds actually okay, because with the more recent version of Logic we've got these studio horns and studio strings, so I've used a combination of those, but primarily we're going to work with our own audio recordings. And the reason why you would use your own recorded sound, so like my crackling sound is kind of like bubble wrap that's been recorded in the studio, and the piano I've recorded myself in a studio as well to create that particular sound, is that if you were going to do this professionally, you would use your own sound recordings, because that then makes you stand out from other people that are relying maybe on sample libraries and all the free sounds that you get with Logic already. And also using these, it allows you to make more unique sounds as well. So moving on then, let's think about this start, middle and end idea. So we want to try and create something that's got energy and direction that fits with our video. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piano sound and I'm going to just drag it in over here to my track, and then I'm just going to adjust the size of it as well, because I only want to hear it in this start portion of my file. So let's just resize that so it's a bit clearer, and then let me just play back what I've got at the moment, which is probably going to sound quite dull. Okay, so there is my piano sound at the beginning. I'm just going to extend that region out a little bit more. I'm going to mute these horns for now because they're going to start annoying me if I keep replaying it over. And when you're doing this kind of work, the thing that you end up doing is listening to the same thing over and over again repeatedly whilst you're editing. So first of all, I'm just going to edit the volume of this particular sound. So I'm just put a little fade at the start and then here at the end to make sure we don't get a click when the audio file ends at the point I want it to. Let's just listen to that again. Okay, maybe I'll just extend that a little bit more. Okay, that's fine for now. So we've got something at the start that's quite low in frequency, but it doesn't really give us that kind of swooping, descending sort of sound that we had before. So one thing that I'm going to do, if we go here where we've got the fade tool, I'm going to highlight this area over the end of my piano sound, and then I'm going to right click and it gives us some options here, and I'm going to select slow down. Now when I press start, okay, it's slowing the sound down a bit like you would do if you were working with an old-fashioned tape recorder, or you turned the record off on a turntable. It's slowing the sound down gradually, and it gives us this descending sort of effect. Okay, so that's kind of a little bit more interesting than what we had. Now what we would want to do then further to try and improve that is if I go to my audio effects, I'm just going to select compressor here, and I'm going to just make a few adjustments, and this is going to sort of smooth the dynamics out of the sound, make it a bit fuller for us, so it should sound a bit kind of heavier in its nature. Let's just listen again. Okay, and then I'm going to go to where I've got here again, my plugins, and I'm going to add equalization. This time I'm just going to use this here to roll off or remove some of the low frequency so we don't get too much rumble. And then here I'm going to take away the highs, so we should now get a bassier sound. Okay, so that's getting somewhere nearer what we had maybe in that example.
So this is still our start portion of the sound, and then I'm going to also add some reverb. So if I click on bus here, I've already got this set up. I double click here, and what I've done with this particular audio plugin is I've used something called warp effects. So these are quite good for sound design. There's some presets already built into Logic which can create some nice movements to things or give you kind of odd effects, and this one's called Descent here, which I've selected, and let's just listen to what that sounds like. So I'm just going to turn up the send level here and press play. And then the next bit I want to do is try and sync or give us this idea of the flickering in the image here, so the flashing. So I'm going to get my crackling sound, if we remember that one, which is just over here, and drag that in, just put it underneath here, and let's just have a listen to that. Well, let's just mute the piano first of all, and okay, so that fits quite nicely. And just to improve this one as well, to make it a little bit more effective, again I'm going to go to my audio effects and add a compressor, which again will smooth out the volume and make it a little bit higher. Just put a bit of boost on the output gain, and then I'm going to go to my equalization, and we don't really want to hear any of the low or mid frequency with that particular sound. We're just interested in those high kind of clicky glitchy sounds. So I'm just going to roll everything off below sort of 1k, which then automatically kind of emphasizes that clicking crackly nature of the sound. So if I now combine those together, okay, we're kind of getting there, aren't we? And if I unmute these, oh sorry, my video's disappeared. Let's double click, there we go, and let's try that again. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is try and make it a little bit more interesting, layer a few more sounds and add some effects. So if you remember, we had this breathy sound earlier. Is it this one? Right, so you might be thinking that's kind of an odd thing to put in here because there's no sort of breath sounds in the original, and it doesn't seem to be looking like there's a person breathing in there, but we can use this to kind of fill out the texture. So what I've done is I've created a new version of that sound here in my audio folder. Okay, so I've missed the process out, but basically what I've done is I've used the sample editor to make that sound an octave lower, so it's a lower pitched now. And what I'm going to do is drag that in over here and pair it up as part of my start, and you can hear it fits quite nicely. And I've already added, or I've already got kind of the EQ and compression set up on this track ready. Well, the equalization anyway, if we look, which is very similar to what I did with the piano. So we're just hearing the low and the mids to try and thicken the sound up and add something different to it. Okay, it's also going to the reverb via the same bus I've set up there. So we've got that together, and now my crackling sounds disappeared a little bit there. So I'm just going to select that one, double click on my equalizer, and just boost that a little bit more, like so. And again, and I might shape the volume of this breath sound a little bit. So if I go to my automation curve, like so. Okay, it works a little bit nicer now. So we're nearly there with what we were trying to get, I think. the next thing that I'm going to do is, in the original, there's a little bit more anticipation before this stab happens at the middle. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to take these sounds that we've got, the strings and the horns, and I'm going to use those as well. So if I just change my cycle range here at the top and press play, I'm just hearing that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to File here and Bounce. I'm going to select Project or Section, and that's everything I need. Add to project, include the audio tail, so we'll get all of the sound because there's reverb on that one as well. Click OK, and it's going to ask me for a name, so I'm just going to call it Test Horns. Click Bounce, and it's going to, it's dropped it there for me at the bottom. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to drag that to here as my new audio file, and then in the sample editor I'm going to reverse it like so. And then this is now going to be a little kind of fade in just before those horns come in, and hopefully this will add some extra colour to what we've already got as well. So we should have a really nice detailed sort of start, the mid kind of stab, and then the end, which we'll deal with shortly. So I might have to bring the volume down here. Okay, so that works quite nicely. So let's just listen to that on its own. So it doesn't do much by itself, but added together. Right, we're nearly there, and then we'll look at it with the video a little bit bigger so we can see what's happening. So one final thing, I think I want something just to emphasize and go along with this stab. And if you remember, I had another piano-y sort of sound, which was more of a thump, plucky sound here. Okay, let's just drag that one in as well. I'm going to drop that there. Just resize this. Let's just listen to what it sounds like on its own. Okay, it should be okay. Let's just see. Let's move it across a little bit so it's more in time. And again, I'm going to get some equalization. I just want the bassy bit really, because I've got the high pitches there. Alright. There. I could send this to some of that reverb again maybe. So bus 1, just a touch. It needs to fade off at the end as well. Right, and then let's just have a look. Now, if I make the video bigger, does it fit?